Hey, as gentle as the Pythagoreans were, they actually collectively offed somebody for revealing the secrets of incommensurability. At least, that's the ancient story. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. Plato's old enough. The Pythagoreans are considerably older. We don't know how true that is. It likely is true. The secret of incommensurability. And of course, explaining that is rather difficult. I'm not actually really going to get into that today, but I'd like to make things simpler and talk about something that people of the ancient times literally would have and did actually give up their life to know the answers to. We kind of don't have that today. I mean, there's like state secrets for which government entities will kind of move mountains for. Field propulsion technology. There's a billion people on this earth that would, sacrifice themselves to know the secrets of field propulsion tech. So those type of secrets still exist. Some people got a tiny handful of those secrets out, never large amounts. Every government has been incredibly adamant about compartmentalizing, extremely top secret information, and no one's ever got out more than a tiny sliver of some of the stuff we all kind of had an inkling about. But back in a time when art and beauty and secrets of the universe were, above that for periods of time in ancient history, above that of importance to understanding the secrets of the universe, these were basically like UFO field propulsion technology secrets. And I find it fascinating that almost nobody cares about stuff like this anymore, but they do. Someone actually asked me today, how all of this is applicable in daily life, and it actually applies to everything. When you actually know this secret, and the only reason it's a secret, any true secrets of the universe, are not actually secrets. It's that human beings don't direct their mind towards endeavoring to understand these things. They're only secrets not because they're kept secrets from you like some sort of top secret field propulsion technology. Rather that it requires a special type of toolbox within your head. One of those tools which has been lost for thousands of years is retroduction. And of course, I'm working on a booklet on retroduction. But this stuff has been the inspiration for art and beauty, philosophy, metaphysics, and everything since time immemorial. And this is that big secret. The Pythagorean pentagram is made up of a special isosceles triangle, which is comprised of parts of 1, 1, phi, and an incommensurable cut of 1 over phi. I've got that same triangle upside down tattooed on the back of my right hand here. And it's this specific triangle. You actually make an incommensurable cut. You have here, the two base angles from the top down, which are both equal to 1, and therefore the base becomes phi, or 1.618, or what people conventionally call the golden ratio. And you ask people to say what the golden ratio is, and they can't tell you. It's like, well, it's beauty in nature. It's like, well, that's descriptively accurate, but descriptions are not explanations. I mean, why is it called the golden ratio? The last half of that, of course, is a ratio. It's the divine proportionality between one and everything we find beautiful in nature. And the Pythagoreans, and who knows before them, engaging in endless speculation about who prior to the Pythagoreans did the Pythagoreans get it from, we don't know. I'm not going to conjecture about it. People love to conjecture about that. I'm not interested in doing so. But if you make an incommensurable cut from the apex down to the base, you end up with a secondary triangle here that's a mirror image of the first, and then the incommensurable cut becomes 1 over phi, which is 0.618. And 1 is to phi as phi is to 1, and 1 is to 1 over phi, just as phi is to 1 over phi. And then you end up with this string, and all of this is incommensurability. It is self-similarity. We could actually call it fractal self-similarity. The originality of this before we knew about fractals was Pythagorean incommensurability, or Pythagorean self-similarity of the one to everything that is beautiful and divine within nature. And this is the secret of Pythagorean incommensurability. I'm trying to make this way simpler. It's actually infinitely more simplex, because as I've said a million times, Mother Nature's that hairy armpit chick. And I wrote a nice article today in the community forum, and people really apparently seem to love it. And getting back to the question I was asked today in that article, it's like, how is this applicable to my daily life? Well, this is a shortcut to understanding everything in the universe, and from human emotions and how people react. Everything is force and motion, inertia and acceleration. As everything is fascinating in nature, it either stops you, it either pulls you in, or it pushes you away. The net effect is the same. Human reactions, emotions, modulation of ignorance and false identity, modulation of spirit vis-a-vis fear, hate, anger, so on and so forth. Everything from top of the universe to the very bottom, from macroscopic to microcosmic, or as the Greeks would say, the cosmos athithos and the cosmos nuitos, the visible universe of aesthetics and beauty, which is a harmonic reflection, a demonstrable reflection of everything that is invisible, is subjective. It is not objectively viewable or examinable. You can't stick it under a microscope. You can't hold it in your hand. You can't measure it. It doesn't have a where, because a where is representative of things that are objective and have a demonstrable, palpable entity within, of course, the visible universe. And this is the great secret. The Periphesian, for example, which I've recommended to endless tens of thousands of you, and countless thousands of you have read it, the meaning of that book is the division of nature. Well, phi is a division of beauty and nature in the universe. It's not numbers. People ignorantly think the universe is painted in numbers. It's not. Mother Nature doesn't even know what numbers are. Numbers are conceptual creations by bean-counting men. I say men specifically because only men could come up with that crazy idea, the idea of numbers. And mathematics is a totally different science than arithmetic. Greek arithmetic, totally different. Anyway, nature is composed of ratios and harmonies are harmonies and ratios between things. And everything that is beautiful is a perfect ratio and proportionality of the one. The ancient Pythagoreans, once again, who before them, we don't know. But there's a secret. A lot of the stuff that's attributed to Plato was not, no way, no how, written by Plato. The cave analogy, we attribute it to Plato. It's far more ancient than him. The Timaeus of Plato, it was not written by Plato. The Parmenides, all of these things are far more ancient than Plato. The actual Greek itself is way more archaic. It's tough. Translations of Parmenides are like, wow, hey, we can translate this kind of, but we don't really know what it's saying. You know, it kind of comes out as blather to an unintelligent mind. You try reading the Parmenides? Have you tried reading it? I bet you haven't. Anyway, people of the ancient world would give up their life to know the secrets. This is essentially, analogously, kind of like anti-gravity field propulsion technology, the secrets that people would sacrifice for back in the ancient days. When you knew this, you understood the undercurrent and the measure and the reasons and the how and the why and the wherefore of the entire universe, from macroscopic to microcosmic. Now there's a secret hidden in Plato's Republic, which was not written by Plato. It's in 509D to 511. By the way, I have a link to an article I wrote about this many years ago. The link is below. Yeah, right there. It's in the description. I'll have it in a pinned comment. It's called the divided line. I'm going to take it in simplex. You take a line, right? You divide it unevenly. Okay, you're going to divide it unevenly. Yeah, what am I going to do there? I'm holding it upside down. I always look at it this way. You could reverse that and it's the same thing, but I'm always used to looking, okay, we've divided unevenly. You take each one of those sections and you divide it unevenly in the same unevenness again. There you go. So we got 4 sections now composed of a line. Well, interestingly enough, that makes up sections of, and this is the midpoint right here, of phi, 1, and 1 over phi. And all of these are proportionalities of one another, as the ancient Pythagoreans discovered and who knows before them. Yeah, well, what's the significance of that? Well, all of this equals phi cubed, or 4.23606. The ancient Pythagoreans discovered that this section over here, which you take phi and 1, you end up with 2.618, which is 5 squared, equaled the hidden or the secret universe. Modern so-called science agrees with this. It says 70% roughly of the universe is invisible. We know it's there somewhere because it's having an effect on stuff, but we don't know what it is. We can't see it. Actually, that's the ether, of course, because it's not visible, it's not objective. We see its influence, and everything that we have over here is 1 plus 1 over phi, which equals 1.618, or phi. So we have a proportionality now of phi squared to phi, but all of this together, phi cubed, is 1 over, and that's the reason why it's a huge secret and takes forever to explain. I got that little equation, and it's not an equation, it's actually an expression. Well, sure it is. It's a fraction. 1 over phi to the power of negative 3. It's a fraction. No, it's an expression of the 1 over the second one, which is not a second one, rather the attribute, like light and illumination. The first 2 digits of the Fibonacci sequence are 1 and 1. It goes 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, so on and so forth. Principle and attribute. It's not a second one. It's the extrinsic attribute of the 1. The Greeks called it the Euristostaios, they called it tolma, they called it ananke, and these words are essentially untranslatable. I know exactly what these words mean, but you can't translate it. You kind of can ananke. It's translated often as necessity, but it doesn't mean necessity. What it means is it can't exist any other way. In other words, the universe can never, has never, will never, shan't never express itself any other way other than this way. And it's the harmony and perfect proportionality of itself as manifest. Or as the ancient Rumi saying goes, would that I were many. Well, how do you express yourself as many? You express yourself as many, not as additional ones, but as mirages or holographic. It's fractal self-similarity, holographic representations of yourself, but in diminishment, in diminishing potency, because more embodiment there is, the less potency there is. The more anything is embodied, of course, the less potent it is. So all of this looks really complicated, but we just started out with a line. We divided the line unevenly and unevenly again, and we ended up with these perfect harmonic proportionalities of y, phi, 1, 1, and 1 over phi, but the entire universe could be expressed as principle over attribute, which is 1 over phi to the power of negative 3, which equals phi cubed, and phi cubed equals the totality of all of this. And if you actually start from here, and it's kind of hard to do on this chalkboard, and you actually draw a spiral out from this, you end up with a perfect logarithmic spiral, which is the same thing we see in nature everywhere. Well, that's beauty. That's the nautilus shell, and that's a cross-section of a nautilus shell. It's like, well, that's true. That's an accurate description, but what are we looking at? We're looking at fractal self-similarity, or Pythagorean incommensurability, or Pythagorean holographic self-similarity. You take your pick. Doesn't make any difference what people say. We're referring to one and the same thing. The 1 is against itself, or phi to the power of negative 3, i.e. the attribute of the 1, which is also 1. The good and the good, light and illumination, principle and attribute. This, by the way, is the secret of emanationism. The ancient Greeks called this prohodos. The Egyptian called it something else. The folks of Advaita Vedanta called it something else. It's tattvamasi. It goes by many different names in Sanskrit and Pali and Greek and on and on and on and on. But this is the principle of emanationism. We have no first cause, this idea of being at the absolute, this inverse fallacy of identification, as above, so below. Therefore, being below and consciousness below is therefore a reflection of being above, i.e. God. And of course, this is the fundamental error of all creationism. Whether you agree with that or not, I don't care. But emanationism completely dismisses any idea of causation. There's no causation or prima cause or original sin within Pythagorean, Platinian, Neoplatinian, Advaita Vedanta, original Buddhism. None of Greek or Indian or Egyptian monism has any idea of first blame or original sin. That's a completely foreign principle within emanationism. Anyway, the secret is hidden in Plato's Republic 509d to 511. Here we go from the Timaeus, which was not written by Plato. It's attributed to Plato, 31b to 32c. It's a long passage, but in short, but two things alone cannot satisfactorily unite with the 1. We actually take the same triangle again right up here, this 1, 1, phi triangle, and take an incommensurable cut. What we have here in the smaller triangle is a mirror image of the larger triangle, but this base, if we flip it around, was 1 up here, but down here it's 1 over phi, or 0.618. So this means that 1 over phi is identical to 1, and 1 is identical to the phi of power of -3, which sits at the pinnacle up here, which is 1 over phi to the power of -3. So phi to the power of -3 is equal to 1, and 1 is equal to phi, as is mathematically and arithmetic, and Greek arithmetics, and it's undeniable. You can ask any mathematician that. So, well, we find out with all proportionality that phi is equal to 1 is 1 equal to phi. Like, yeah, that's true, but so what? They don't get it. It's right in front of them. They don't get it. So why, if 1 is equal to phi to the power of -3, 1 is equal to phi, 1 over phi. 1 over phi is equal to phi, 1.618. Phi cubed, phi squared. What this proves is that 1, phi squared, phi cubed, 1 over phi, phi to the power of -3. These are all the same thing in different ratioed expressions as potencies, increasing potencies and decreasing potency relative to the 1. Further out you go from light, the less the illumination is measurable in lux. Is that not true? The further you get from the source, the less and less you have of something. So we're talking about diminishing potentialities of the principle. Yeah? So the principle and the attribute and extension. This third thing, which of course is necessary, which of course is what makes life possible. By the way, this same triangle, if I erase all this stuff right here, this is the only, by the way, not my opinion or feeling or belief, this is the only perfect geometry in the entire universe. That's the reason why the Pythagoreans made it in triplicate. This is where the original Trinity came from, by the way, not the Christian Trinity, the actual original Trinity. If you actually take it here, and we draw an oxygen atom up here, and a couple of hydrogen atoms down here, we have the water molecule. This is where we get the Timaeus 31b to 32c. But these two things alone, i.e. matter and spirit, cannot be satisfactorily united without a third, which requires water. But not only is the water the third thing, this is important, pay attention, not only is water the third thing necessary for spirit and matter to become together, because matter itself ain't going to do it. Spirit alone ain't going to do it. That thing which is necessary for life to manifest is the antenna of life, which is water. So not only is that third thing necessary, but the third thing itself must have necessitatively, there's that word again, anake, but it doesn't really mean necessity. What it means is it can't exist any other way. Must necessitatively have, which of course it does, the water molecule, the perfect and only incommensurable geometry in the entire universe for the manifestation of life. Because that Pythagorean special isosceles triangle, which is the 108, 36, 36, 108 down here, 36, and 36 over here. By the way, 108, those numbers, 360 degrees is actually superannually. Why does a complete circle have 360 degrees? It takes a long time to explain. But 108, you add those numbers up, you end with 9. You add 3 and 6 together, you end with 9. There's a reason for that, but the short answer is that 10 was not considered a number from the perspective of Greek metaphysics and philosophy. Neither was 1 a number. 0 is not a number at all. The Greeks didn't have that idea about 0. That's kind of modern, kind of sort of modern. 1 was never a number, though. They considered it the principle. 10 was not a number. 10 was the same thing as saying 1. Like 1 started here, which was the principle. 10 would be returning back to the start again. In other words, that's completion. Everything's complete in 10, so 10 wasn't a number. The maximum outlier that can occur is 9. So that's the limit. Actually, technically, it's the unlimit, because 1 is limit and maximum unlimit, as far as out you could go from the 1, is the digit 9, because 10 is returning right back to the start again. So anyway, here we have it, of course, the water molecule. Phi is to 1 as 1 is to phi, which is also equal to phi cubed. And since this is a demonstrable truth of the universe, and the secret within Plato's Republic 509d to 511, this means that everything that is beautiful in nature is a harmonic perfection ratio proportionality or Pythagorean incommensurable self-similarity to the one itself. You can call it the golden ratio or, beauty, and, that's all fine. That's descriptively accurate, but that doesn't explain to you what it is. 2.618 then, of course, becomes phi. You take the divided line over here. Let's erase all this over here again. Just draw a line again here. It's kind of brilliant how this works out. Take a line, divide it unevenly. Okay, take that line, divide it unevenly again. Once again, we end up with phi, 1, 1, and 1 over phi, all of which equals phi cubed, which is 4.23606. But all of this starts from 1 over phi to the power of negative 3. So the 1 against its attribute, like light against its illumination, it's not against. It's that, like good and good, that which the good is, and that which the good does. Does is not really an appropriate word from the perspective of transcendent metaphysics, but the extrinsic attribute of the 1 as against itself. Just like illumination, further you go out, the less potency of illumination you have as measured in lux, or lumens. 1 over phi to the power of negative 3, or 0.2366. By the way, if you want a numerical representation for illumination or the good of the good, it's actually 0.23606. Yeah. But these are numbers, and numbers are man's creation. Yeah. You end up with everything that's beautiful in nature by taking a line, dividing it unevenly, taking each section then, dividing unevenly again. You end up with phi, 1, 1, 1 over phi. All of which equals phi cubed. This is where we get the trinity from, by the way. The trinity, within the trinity is the principle and attribute. You go from principle, attribute, which are not two things, like this equation tattooed, or expression tattooed on the inside of my right wrist. 1 over phi to the power of negative 3. What's the number? 0.23606. No, it's an expression of the principle, of the attribute as against the principle. So all of this is equal to 1. So 1 equals 1 over phi to the power of negative 3, which equals phi squared, phi cubed, phi to the power of negative 2. By the way, the actual representation of the soul, this is also, too, another secret you won't find in any video, is phi to the power of negative 2, which is 0.381966. Once again, numbers don't really exist, but the ratioed numerical representation for the soul, or the Atman, or the Spiritus Sanctum, is phi to the power of negative 2, 0.381966, etc., etc., etc. And of the Euristostaias, or the attribute of the 1, is 0.23606, or phi to the power of negative 3. And pan, which basically means everything. We all know about the Greek cloven-hoofed deity that lives in the forest and playing his pan flute there. Not that pan, but pan meaning everything. And the Pali term for it is sabe, meaning the all. The all of everything. Natura naturans, Mother Nature, the universe. All of that is representative by, well, if you want to know the representation for nature, is phi cubed. Yeah. Which also, too, equals 1, but also, too, equals the all. This is the 1 up here on top, but everything is the 1. An expression of the 1, but what the expression represents at that perfect ratio proportionality. This equals 4.23606, but phi cubed equals absolutely everything. But absolutely everything is found over here right at the top, which of course is just 1. Once again, the Greeks didn't consider 1 a number. They considered it the principle. This is the division of the divine. Just divine ratios and proportionalities of themselves to everything else, but they're all, of course, completely unified. And that, girlfriend, this is the origin of the Pythagorean, and who knows before that, Trinity. This pentagram, which of course means 5, is composed of 3 of those magic triangles, which is, of course, has nothing to do with New Age or witchcraft or any other garbage. It's composed of this, the 1-1 phi triangle, the incommensurable secret of the entire universe. Right there. That's the one thing in triplicate which makes up the Pythagorean pentagram. But this simple isosceles triangle is the only perfect incommensurable geometry of the entire universe. And the incommensurable cut, dividing it unevenly from apex to base, you end up with mirror image of incommensurable self-similarity right here, because this little triangle over here is the same thing as the whole. And then this becomes 1 over phi, which equals 1, and 1 equals phi to the power of -3, and phi to the power of -3 under 1 equals everything, which is phi, which is equal to phi cubed. From top to bottom, the self-similarity of everything to everything else is simplex divinity, and divinely simplex. And this is the secret, the great secret, and the only great secret of the Pythagoreans, for which they ended somebody, supposedly. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. But people actually fought for the answer, this answer that I've talked about in this video, for thousands and thousands of years. Everything in absolute simplicity, such that everything in the universe, beautiful and harmonic, desirable and good, is a representation thereof. The hows, the whys, the why it is not, everything therein is represented in absolute simplicity. And this is a universal truth which is true from one corner of this universe to the other, is 100% undeniable, 100% irrefutable. Whether somebody believes it or not is no concern of mine. The truth is the truth and the good is the good, regardless of what fool agrees with it or not. That I am unconcerned about. I hate chalk dust, by the way. I can't stand chalk dust. I'll edit that out of this video. Anyway, if you like these videos, let me know. The link to that article that I wrote is below. Any donations are always warmly welcome. Send me an email what you think. Leave me a comment. I read every comment. The good, the bad, and the ugly. I read them all. I read every one of them. So there you go, girlfriend. The secret of the universe is represented in simplex self-similarity, where everything over here is a lesser potency of everything right here. If you actually look really closely, there's a little hole right in the middle there. That would be the point of rest. That would be the true transcendent one. And everything else out here is a representation of, as I said, would that I were many. Not that the absolute is sentient or conscious. Don't take that analogy too far. Thanks so much for watching. Lux et Veritas.